Hi, so welcome to another reading vlog. This week, I have a lot to read. So this is my pile of books that I have from, most of them are from my TBR Machine challenge, but that one's going on the floor. I guess it doesn't want to be read. This one here I added for the Tome Inifinity readathon. It's a lot of books to get through this week. I don't really know how I'm going to manage it. I guess either I'm going to accept that it's impossible or I'm going to prioritize reading and get it done. I kind of have a feeling I'm going to prioritize reading because that's where my head is at the moment. And a nice week of mostly reading and a little bit of other stuff might be just the week we're looking for. I do also have quite a few audiobooks awaiting for me to read them. Most of the ones I'm going to focus on are the ones from the Tome Inifinity readathon. So I was reading the Fuck It Diet, I think it's called. I was reading that because I saw Sarah without an H talking about it and saying it was really amazing. And I really enjoyed the beginning of it. I thought it was really good, talking about how fatness and health aren't necessarily correlated, how starving yourself as part of a diet leads to you eventually binging and fucking up your metabolism. Totally on board with all of that. But once it got kind of further than that, I don't know, I was hoping for something more empowering, and instead I got something kind of triggering. And I guess for me, like maybe if I'd read it like 10 years ago, it would have been really meaningful for me. But right now, I just don't really want to listen to a bunch of talking about how starvation isn't good for you because I already know that. So I wanted to keep reading it, but I gave up on it. It also kind of assumes that the only unhealthy relationship you could have with food is one where you do this starvation and then binging. But personally, my relationship with food is much more complicated than that, so unfortunately, it wasn't as helpful as I was hoping it would be. Anyway, since then, I have moved on to listening to Her Pretty Face by Robin Harding. This is like a domestic thriller, and I don't know why I picked these up because I don't generally like them, but the problem is, like, Big Little Lies I really loved, and this I feel like is trying to be Big Little Lies, but all the characters are so unlikable, whereas Big Little Lies there were some really likable characters, and yes, those likable characters might be flawed, but at the end of the day you still agree with what some of them are doing. And I know that some people aren't bothered by unlikable characters, and I'm hoping that somehow the story is going to come together in a way that's interesting enough that it can overcome the unlikable characters. But a couple of hours in, and so far it's definitely not overcoming that. Also this morning I did manage to finish Death Note 8, which I started last night. I'm not actually sure how I feel about the direction of this series at the moment. I will say another Shinigami death god has just come along and I really like him. I almost wish that we just got rid of all the other characters and just focused on the death gods in this series, especially the stupid ones. Like, the more stupid they are, the more I like them. I don't know why that is, because I don't normally like stupid people, but I like stupid death gods. That's what we're finding out by reading this series. I can put that aside and now not feel guilty about not making progress on Death Note and my brother getting annoyed with me. Then also this morning, we've had kind of a productive morning in terms of reading and books. So also this morning, I picked up some books from the library. First, I picked up Tunnel of Bones by Victoria Schwab. I'm really excited to read this. So this is the second book in the Cassidy Blake series, where Cassidy Blake is able to see ghosts, and her best friend is a ghost, and she's now going to Paris with her parents, who are like ghost hunters. And I'm just excited to read it because it's Victoria Schwab. I like Victoria Schwab. The other book that I got from the library, I am less excited about, especially once I saw how thick it was. When they put them on the shelves in the library, they put them like this. And when I saw that with my name coming out of it, I was like, really? I've committed to reading that. So I've got The Dragon Republic by Iris Kwong. So this is the sequel to The Poppy War. To be honest, I was kind of mad about The Poppy War, but I wanted to give the second book a chance. But now seeing it, I'm like, why? Well, I don't know. Do I want to read this much just to give a series a chance? Anyway, I probably will, but both of these books are going to go into my TBR for October, which I was meant to be filming today, but I'm going to film it tomorrow probably. And it feels weird to be filming my TBR when I've still got so many books left over from my previous TBR. But I guess that's what we're going to do because I want to get the TBR out early enough. And so I'll just have to read all of these. Also, the lighting goes up and down. It's those bloody clouds mucking around out there. Mucking around. Anyway, I have a lot of reading to do. I think actually today I'm going to try and pick up one of these two just because they're the shortest books on this TBR pile, and I think if I can get some quick wins, that will make me feel better about everything. So I'm going to start with the shortest one, which is Third Degree by Tanya Roxburgh. I don't know much about this other than there's some teenage girl finds letters from her dead mother, potentially. Tanya Roxburgh was my sixth form drama teacher. That's the main reason why I picked this up from the book fair and the main reason why I want to read it. So I'm probably going to read it now, actually. I think I've got everything together. So I'm going to read this now and hopefully I will like it. Hi, so it is Tuesday afternoon. It's kind of been the kind of day where time just disappears and I don't know really where it's gone. The weather has gotten crappy again, which is very unfortunate and I'm not a fan. But today I did manage to film some videos that I want to get up this week, and then as well, yesterday I finished reading Third Degree. It turned out my synopsis of this was completely wrong. What actually happens is it follows this girl through two timelines, one when she's young and about 10, and she ends up getting third degree burns after an accident in the house, hence the name Third Degree. It actually makes sense if you know what the book's about. And then it's also kind of following her in the future when she doesn't have a very good relationship with her mother, and she's also dealing with the fact that she still has scars from these burns that she got as a child. There's also this really weird plotline in there about kids having been given experimental medicine while they were in hospital without their parents knowing that's what was happening. I don't know. Like, in a lot of ways it felt like a book written by an English teacher, and it is a book written by an English teacher, so I guess that shouldn't be surprising. But I also don't really feel like a lot of the plot lines fit together very well, and there isn't like an author's note in the back that kind of suggests that this is quite autobiographical, so it's really just a story of what happened to her, which is definitely what it reads like. And unfortunately, real life doesn't always come together in a satisfying way when you put it in a story. So it was okay, but I thought it was going to be a bit better actually, so that's disappointing. Yesterday I did also read about half of this, and then I finished it off today. It's kind of weird reading it after this book, which sort of talks a little bit about how even if you remember things well from when you're a child, because you have limited understanding when you're a child, your understanding of things still might not be the full picture. And so this, I couldn't help but, when I was reading it, thinking about how her memories, even though they might be correct, aren't really aware of what was going on with the adults in her life. Also, like, definitely some really bad things happened to her in her childhood, and she isn't well loved by her father and her stepmother. But also, a lot of the things that she's making out are really terrible things that happened to her in her childhood are really not that bad, especially in the context of what was going on in China at the time. So then because she's like being so over the top about these things that aren't very bad, then when the really bad things happen, you're just like, yeah, but are you overreacting again? Which isn't fair at all, because definitely some bad things happened to her. She definitely didn't have a great childhood, but I don't think her childhood was as bad as she thinks it is, although it's hard to tell because this is written more for children, kind of at a middle grade level, so it's purposefully avoiding really difficult topics, so it's possible that it was just cut for this particular book. I don't know. It was an okay read, but it's written very simplistically. Again, it's middle grade, so that's what you would expect. It's definitely interesting to learn a little bit more about what was going on in China around the end of World War II and just after that, and just what it would be like to be a Chinese daughter in a family that perhaps doesn't want you. But it wasn't as good as I remembered it being. I feel like this month a lot of books have been quite disappointing. Anyway, let's hope that this book won't be disappointing. So I'm going to pick this up now because I really thought I would finish these a lot quicker. Since I haven't, I'm going to read this because it's the group book for Tome Inifinity, so it's worth more points. Also, I really want to read it, so I'm just going to read this. Ideally, I'd like to finish it tonight, but I'm just laughing at myself because that's ridiculous and very unlikely to happen. But I'm going to read as much as I can of this tonight. And hopefully I'll really love it and then I'll start flying through it. You never know. Hi, so it is Wednesday afternoon. I'm about to go into town for a mentoring event at the university, but I thought I would just check in about how we're going with our reading. To be honest, I keep telling myself I'm focusing on my reading and so then I don't do other things, but somehow I'm not spending time on reading either. I'm just being distracted and mucking around, and I'm blaming the weather, even though it's probably not fair, but it keeps like alternating between rain and sun, and I feel like that's even worse than just straight raining because you don't know whether you can trust any sun that comes along. Anyway, I did finish the audiobook of Her Pretty Face, and I think I really just need to accept that domestic thrillers are not for me, and when people who like domestic thrillers tell me that one is good, I just should remember that that's probably not what I like. It was like about halfway through it got a little bit interesting and then it revealed some stuff, and I thought, wow, if it's revealing this halfway through, things are going to get even more intense. But no, not really. Nothing really happened after that. And when it finished, I was just kind of left with a feeling of like, so what was the point of all of that? It's just a lot of like dysfunctional people being dysfunctional. There's no real resolution. Just what was the point? Nothing particularly bad happened. I don't think I understand domestic thrillers. I don't think they are for me. So next time you see me picking up a domestic thriller, remind me that it's probably not something I'm going to love. Then as far as the 5th season goes, I'm only about 80 pages in. It's slow going. I do really like the world that's being built up, but I'm just really struggling to focus on it. I think that's a me thing, not the book, although one of the perspectives is told in second person, which I've heard a lot of people saying they're not a fan of, and I can totally see why. It does help to give the two different perspectives very different feels, so that's one good part of it, but I don't really see the reason yet why it's being told in second person. But maybe that will all become clear. I do really like the magic system. So we've got like these people who I actually feel like everyone has this like extra sense where they can sense the world around them a little bit. And some people are especially strong in this and are able to like manipulate the earth. And those people are both powerful but also very feared and restricted. So it's a really interesting world and I'm looking forward to learning where the story goes. But I don't know why I'm going so slow. Anyway, I'm going to go into town. While I'm in town, I'm going to listen to the audiobook of All Rights Reserved by Gregory Scott Katsolis. I've listened to a whole 20 minutes of it so far and I'm quite liking it. It's all about this girl who, when she's like 15, and everyone in this world when they're 15 gets this band strapped around their wrist and they have to start paying for the words they use and the gestures they use. So it's basically a dystopian, seeing what might happen if we took copyright and trademark law to their extreme. So I'll see how much of this I can get through while I'm in town. I won't finish it because I won't have enough time, and then I will check in with you guys tomorrow. Honestly, I don't know what is happening with time this week. I feel like I told myself this week that I could just spend all my time reading, and then somehow I got less reading done than normal and less other stuff than normal, and this week is not my friend. So I've pretty much read no more of the 5th season. I think I'm up to page, 149. There was just this, I'm sorry about the lighting, there was just this little interlude which suggested something that made me go, ooh, that's kind of cool. I like the world, it's just, I'm not sure if I like the storytelling. I don't know. I'll keep reading it and we'll see how it changes. Also, as far as All Rights Reserved goes, I think I'm about halfway through that audiobook and I am really loving it. It's just like a really cool concept. Like, the world is not really realistic at all. Basically, when you're 15, you get this cuff put on and it tracks everything you say, and certain people own the rights to different words, and so you'll be charged for everything you say, and that includes being charged for certain gestures. So it's quite expensive to live. Hairstyles are copyrighted, so if you have hairstyles that aren't in the public domain, you have to pay for that as well, and your names and just everything you have to pay for. People don't have maps because you have to pay a lot for the rights to geographic information, and same with historical information. So there was a part I just got to where she talked about not knowing parts of history because her school couldn't afford the rights to that historical information. Honestly, it's really crazy, and I think it does a really good look at investigating what that level of like restriction on people, what that would cause. And it's all about inequality because some people, the rights holders, are really rich and affluent. There's also this whole thing about influencers. So there's these product places that like sneak in and without anyone seeing them, like leave products out, primarily in these influencers' houses. So you might, as an influencer, wake up and some beautiful product is displayed in your lounge. Imagine just waking up and like someone's put a bunch of books in your house. It's a really cool world, and I'm really loving the way the story investigates what that world would be like. So I'm going to listen to that as I head off to Jason's house. I'm not sure what we're doing this weekend because it's like rainy and sunny and unpredictable again. Blah. That's another reason why I think this week has been annoying, because the weather has turned to shit again. Anyway, I'm going to go and have some fun time with Jace, and then on Sunday we'll see about sorting life out again, I guess. Hey, so it's Sunday now. Friday and Saturday we didn't really do much because the weather was just continuing to be unpredictable. We did go for a little bit of a walk, but it started raining a few times while we were on that walk. But we did watch a few more episodes of Dark Crystal, and have to say episode 7 is my absolute favorite. It was so funny. We laughed all the time, and the heretic is my favorite character. I honestly want to watch just that episode again, and I probably will once we've finished it. We've just got one more episode to go, so that's exciting. Also, like, if you haven't seen the Dark Crystal movie, you can still watch the TV show, and if you haven't watched the TV show yet for any reason, like, I definitely recommend it. I mean, I know because I've watched the movie with the puppets when I was younger, it probably is a different experience for me, but I just can't see how anyone wouldn't be cracking up at episode 7. So it's worth watching the whole thing just for that episode. Anyway, reading wise, All Rights Reserved, I did manage to finish listening to that audiobook, and honestly I was really loving it till about 3/4 of the way through, and then I feel like it just got a little bit ridiculous and unbelievable. And I know the whole thing is based around like all this copyright and trademark stuff being taken to the extreme, so it is fairly unbelievable already, but I didn't really believe, it didn't seem like the main character really had much of a plan, and still things managed to work out for her, although they kind of went terribly, but somehow some things came together that I just don't really think would have happened like that at all. And considering how well it had done up until that point at making all this ridiculous stuff feel real, was a little bit disappointing. However, overall, I still really love the story, and I really think it is worth reading, and I thought the audiobook was pretty good too, so I would recommend that as well. So yeah, I have put a hold on the audiobook for the second book in the series. I think it's just a duology, but I haven't really looked into that. But I only saw a second book in the series, some kind of sequel. So I'll be listening to that at some point in the future, probably next month. Then the other book that I've been reading is the 5th season, so I've got about 100 pages to go. Also, I have to say, I have a little tab in here at page 170 because I had a theory, and that's the point where I thought, yes, my theory is definitely right. And then about page 300 and something, my theory was right, and I was like, oh, I knew it. And I just that feeling of like, oh, I knew it has made me enjoy this book a lot more than I was before that. Why do my neighbours always have to mow their lawns? Sorry if you can hear that. Honestly, I waited forever for them to finish, and of course once I start filming they start making that noise again. Of course they do. I don't know, I can understand. I've seen a lot of people saying they're not sure how they feel about this book, and I can kind of understand it because I think the world building is really great, and there's a lot of like really cool ideas in here, but it's written in this really weird like fact-based kind of writing, but it's also really vague at the same time. It's strange, and I definitely agree that the parts that are told in second person are, I don't know, I'm hoping that there's going to turn out to be a reason why it's in second person, but so far not really. Anyway, I am going to read the last 100 pages of this tonight, and then I'll be able to tell you whether I liked it as a whole, because I think it's kind of slow and there's all these pieces going on, so it really depends how it all comes together as to whether I will say yay or nay. Okay, so I just finished this, and I think I've decided I love it. Like, it definitely has its flaws. The pacing is slow in some bits, and it takes quite a while to kind of work out how the different bits align. But some really intense stuff happened at the end, and I love the world that's set up, and I love the magic, and I don't know, it made me feel very emotional at the end. And that last line, I love the last line because there are a couple of hints previous about what's mentioned in the last line, and I was so into it, and so that last line was perfect. So I am definitely going to be picking up the next book in this series very soon. I just haven't decided, like, since I own this first book, should I try and buy the second book? I'm not supposed to be buying books. I'll have to think about that. That's all I've read this week. I still have a lot of reading to do, so that's not ideal. There is only one more day of the month tomorrow, which is also the last day of Tome Inifinity, and if you've been paying attention, you'll know that so far I've only covered 3 of the 7 continents. So tomorrow I'm going to try and read 2 audiobooks, a physical book, and a graphic novel in order to complete Tome Inifinity. I don't know if that's possible. And then I do also still have these 3 books from the TBR Machine challenge. I think I'm going to have to accept that I'm not going to get them read this month. And I'm trying to decide if maybe I should just put some of these into my October TBR, even though, like, I like my October TBR as it is. But I kind of feel like there should be some consequences for not finishing my TBR Machine challenge. And so I feel like if I don't read them in the following month, then what am I doing? Anyway, I have to think about whether there should be consequences to not completing my TBR challenge. I mean, I definitely want to keep all 3 of these books, so I guess it doesn't matter. I'll read them at some point, for sure. But I guess that is everything for my vlog for this week. Next week is a new week and a new month, so I've got a plan. I spent some of my day-to-day planning how I can make next week and next month more like what I want my weeks and months to be like, because the last couple of weeks, or at least the last week, it's not been what I wanted. But anyway, thank you for hanging out with me this week. Hopefully this vlog isn't too boring. To be honest, I haven't even edited it yet, so I need to still do that tonight before I go to sleep, and then tomorrow is a new day. So I hope that you also have a great week in the upcoming week after you watch this, and I guess I will see you again soon.